Well, Pixel here in Purple Garage. We're working on the van, and in particular, we're dealing with the lack of spare tire. So, a factory regular wheelbase or long wheelbase van will have the spare mounted here, but because on a shorty that distance is too small, there's no place to put the spare between the wheel well and the back end of the van. So the factory thing is literally, I think, somewhere around here or over there. There's a threaded bung in the floor, and the spare is supposed to just sit on the floor and be bolted down to it, which is obviously stupid because you can't load anything because you got a spare tire in the way. This was a conversion van, and the solution they usually have is to have the mount on the back here. It'll clamp to those two hinges and then bolt over here. That's what these are left over from. When I got the van, it was already off the back. I don't like those, so I never put it back on. But I've been running into the problem of spare tire. Around town, I've just been driving around without a spare, which I'm not fond of, but all right, fine, I got AAA tow, I can get it home. When I go on long trips, I've been throwing a full-size. On long trips, I've been throwing a full-size wheel and tire in the back, often ratchet strapped to the back of one of the seats. Like that seat will usually have a ratchet strap going around it, the tire there. Definitely not optimal. There's no good solution when I'm hauling cargo for a spare because it's just kind of in the way. So I've been trying to figure out a solution. These have a 5x5 bolt pattern wheel, which is also 5x127, I want to say. So, oh, Jeeps have 127s. I'll go look at Jeep wheels. The problem is the Jeep wheels, in addition to not being able to find one that was even close to the right height, the center hub is smaller. So I would have had to take it somewhere and get it machined out to the size to fit over the hub on this, which point I'm taking strength away from it. Also, that's a whole big hassle. This has been a low grade, like I need to solve this problem. I'll keep researching it. And what I finally found was the full-size Chevy cars, pre-1996, all use 5x5. I believe the 92 to 96s have a full-size spare, at least for the full-size car, or for the sedans. I don't know about the wagons for sure. But prior to that, they tended to have compact spares. So what I was eventually able to track down is this full-size spare. This is from a 1991 Cadillac, whatever the full-size Eldorado Brougham, I don't remember what it's called in that year. 5x5 bolt pattern, larger front hub, and you know, spares are always going to be smaller than the height of the regular tire, but this is close enough to work. It'll clear the brakes. I have a Jeep one that's like this tall, so it'd be the exact opposite problem. But like, this is not optimal. It'd be nice if it was a little taller, but this will work. And again, this is just like in absolute emergencies, you know. This is, I'm miles from anywhere. It's late at night. I need to get the van moving for whatever reason. Like, the odds that I'll ever use this is pretty damn small. But I wanted a spare for my own peace of mind. So the other question is, where the hell do you put it then? Because it is smaller. One possibility is there is a space under here between the drive shaft and this kick down here that is large enough that that would fit there without hitting the drive shaft. The ABS unit is about here, so you'd have to fabricate a mount, but you're gonna have to fabricate a mount anyway. That would absolutely work. You could easily just make a mount welded to the floor with a bolt sticking down, slide the spare on, tighten a nut onto it like most cars have. That would absolutely work. The only reason I don't want to do that is they always get gross when they're under the vehicle. So like, I can do it. I might end up doing it if I don't like any of my other options, but that's not an optimal solution. An easy solution, if you have a cargo van, an easy solution is to just, you know, put it up over the wheel well, either here or on the other side. In my case, that blocks the window. A spot that sort of works in my van is here. As long as I made a mount that kept it up off the seat, that would work. It'd be largely out of the way of the windows. It wouldn't really interfere with loading cargo. The only time it would interfere with anything is if I ever put a bed back here, which is what this whole platform is designed to hold, the end of a bed. If I ever do that, I'd have to take that off, but at that point it could go under the bed because the bed would be there. So that would work. If I made a matching cover, it would look just fine. Absolutely an option. Again, just not super fond of it. Another option, I've already pulled the panels that I put on this off, is this door. This is the door that it's mounted to the outside of normally. But what occurred to me is with a smaller compact spare, you could make a bracket and literally just do this. And it would take up so little space. It would absolutely work. The only time it would be any kind of issue is if you're loading this thing absolutely full or with something that's the full 8 feet. But it's actually would be a relatively clean install, because make a bracket that bolts it on here nice and solidly, make a cover for it, it would look pretty damn clean. Nice and accessible, out of the way. If you did it this way, like if you mounted it like that, you could probably even use the dead space inside as storage. So that's another option. That's another option. I, however, am going to do something full-on. I'm going to do something full-on absurd, because I realized this door is a dead space. Not quite the depth of this tire, but it's pretty good. And there's nothing in here. I've run some wires for the rear view camera and the third brake light, but there's factory nothing inside these doors. And it's sealed from the bottom. Like, there's no need for anything either. People put cargo compartments into these all the time. And so I'm basically going to do the same thing, except I'm going to do it to hold a spare tire. My plan is to cut out where the tire is, weld in some reinforcement, make a bracket of some sort. I haven't figured out how I'm doing that. And then the tire is going to be recessed into the door. It'll stick out very slightly, but I can then make covers for it and have a really neat, a really clean install that gets it the heck out of the way and uses space that I'm not using otherwise. So that's the plan. Let's get to it. All right, I pulled all my wiring out. This is the extra third brake light I added. This is the camera lighting. I don't remember if this was hooked to something or not, because it doesn't look like it's ever been, but I don't remember. We'll figure it out when the camera doesn't work. 4 bolts to take the door off. I could work on it up here, but I realize it's significantly less miserable to work on it lying down. So now I get the misery of taking it off. All right, I just ran into my first problem. I laid this on here to measure it so I can mark it. And it turns out this is a much tighter fit than I thought. I thought it was going to be much further into this, like, not structure, but the rib bends, but it's not. The only way I can kind of make it do that is by cutting it real close over here, give myself some more room on that space. So the reason this is an issue is this needs to have some structure, because this catches the door, so it can't just be a thin piece of sheet metal there. So part of it is I want the 90 degree here, because that'll help. But I also have to have room to put some degree of reinforcement above, around, near it, whatever. One of the things I was going to do that I did not get a chance with this was I was going to go to our local makerspace and with a 6-inch wide strip of steel and run it through their big roller and get myself a nice hoop that I could form around this, weld to the exact right size, and then use that for all my fitting. That didn't happen. I've got a couple of hours of a nice day to work on this. So I guess we're going to wing it. I think I'm going to have to go find my nippers, but I think I'm going to cut that long strip. What do I need? I need a 75-inch by 6-inch strip of steel. So I'm going to go cut that and come back. Alright, well, I've completely fucked up. Of course, I didn't notice this until I started cutting and it became a problem. If you look carefully, I don't even know if the camera's going to pick it up well. There's a row of spot welds over here. There's a whole brace that runs all down this strip here to reinforce for the hinges. You know how I said that this needs the strength and whatnot? Yeah, there's an entire brace in there I was not aware of. So, yeah, that's a big problem because this won't work. I don't know how to put it any more simply than that. I've just I cut this, it rammed right into it. The brace runs a couple of inches out. So the only way I can do this now is if I intrude it into this space, but even then I don't actually have enough now that I'm looking at it, because I need like 2 inches, so I've got like an inch over here. So this was never going to work. Bummer. I feel dumb now because I never saw that. This was such a cool idea. Not going to work at all. All right, rethink this. So I can't, it can't go in the door. Period, full stop. That idea is over. Because hang on just a second. Put it down. Yeah, because if I eyeball this to right at the edge, because this lip right here is where the other door goes, so this lip can't be cut off. This side, it's right in the middle of a spot weld. So theoretically this could happen, but this is not an easy project. So this is a bust. There's no good way to do this. Even if, like, this could theoretically work, but it's not a right now project. It's a much bigger project. I'd want to get a spare door. And since one of my, this was going to be something quick and easy that I could like tack this ring in, cut it flush, and cover it up with interior paneling, so it didn't have to be perfect. Now it would have to be much better quality, because half of it would always be visible, this bump out over here. And in theory, down the line, I want to put an early style door with the recess for the plate, or make something that looks like that. So this being a big project doesn't make sense, because then I'm going to take this door off and replace it, or modify it in a way that this wouldn't be compatible with this, because that's down here and there would now be a tire in the way of that recess. All right, I think what I'm going to do is mount it over there on the side, at least for now, because I think I can make a bracket in a way that will be removable later over there, because it doesn't have to do much more than, like, it's going to be a pretty simple bracket. It will cover up the speaker and the USB port. Fuck, now I don't like that either. No, you know what? I'm going to mount it to the outside, like to the skin of the door. So I'm going to need to make a bracket for that goes to the front of the door, and I'm going to shift it up so that if I'm loading plywood or something in it, it'll be below this on the back of the door. I think that's my best option, and then if I don't like it, I can take it back off, and I'm going to keep the original door panel unmodified, so I can just take that bracket back off and go back to the original style if I hate having this there. I'm so bummed by this. This was such a cool idea. All right, well, whatever. All right, welded this. I was gonna, obviously I don't need to fill it, it was all gonna be covered, but welded that cut so that this is all back to solid, welded the end of that, put a little piece behind that to bridge the gap, and welded that back up so the skin is back to full strong. So now I gotta build a surface bracket. Which I don't want to do. It's boring. It's no fun. I want to do the cool thing, but the cool thing doesn't work, so we're moving on. Sorry. It's not been a great day. In addition to this, both of my helmets are acting weird, so I got a bit flashed. It kind of bruised my eyeballs, so that's going to hurt later on. But I got to do something, because I don't want this to be a complete blowout. So we're going to figure out a surface mount for that wheel. All right, I thought I'd be clever and use 1/2 inch by 20 bolts so that I could thread the same lug nuts that the van uses on, but I just went out to try to find them and I couldn't. So for now, I'm going to use 12 by 13 just to put it together. What I've done is I marked out the 3 lug holes, because I used my little, where is it? I used my little this thing to check, that you use to check lug patterns, to mark out 3 of the holes. I'm going to put a bolt through with a washer on the other side, with a nut on the door, and then it should stick out enough that it'll stick through the wheel, and I can put a second nut on it. Eventually they'll get replaced with 12 by 20 thread, but 12 by 13 for right now, just to get the job done. New problem. These are the longest bolts that I have that are threaded all the way down. They don't reach. They look like they were gonna, they don't. When I set the tire on, it sits flush against this with no threads to put a nut on. All the other ones I have a shank, which means doing what I'm doing with a nut on the other side of the door doesn't work. I don't have anything that'll work as a spacer. I'm done for today. This is I'm just going to approach it from new. I'm going to take this out, put the door panels back on, try it again another day. Some days it just doesn't all work for you. Another day we're going to try this again. Fortunately, I discovered when I put the door back on that apparently the ground wasn't as clean as I thought I had gotten it, so I scratched the hell out of this. It's okay. This paint job's a mess, so it's a bummer, but I'm not devastated. But yeah, I put this back together. I stuck it over there. It's got a ratchet strap. Fortunately, it's a ratchet strap around a little piece of just the trim, and it cracked it, but it held it for now. I could probably build a bracket and put it there, but I don't quite like it, because to clear the seat, right now it's resting on the seat. To clear the seat, it ends up over the window a little more than I'd like. So I'm going to do the putting it here, but we're going to do it differently this time. What I'm going to do this time is, instead of trying to have bolts come out that it bolts onto, I'm going to put nuts in the door that it bolts into, and as long as one of the 4 on the tire thing will fit the bolts, that'll be easily removable. And if I remove it for putting a bed in or more cargo or whatever, there won't be stuff sticking out, because I realized that was another problem, is I'd have bolts sticking out if I had it the other way. So we're going to tear all of this back off again, and we're going to take another shot at it. All right, so what I'm going to do with this piece of metal, I have to find, there it is. This is my little gauge thing. I think this was earlier in the video. I'm going to mark off the 2 so that's 2, not opposite, but, you know, yeah, as close to opposite as you can have with 5. I'm going to drill these 2 out. I'm going to weld a nut for either of them. This lower one, there's already a hole from the last try that was the upper left. It's now going to be the bottom left. But I'm going to figure out where the other hole needs to be for everything to be where I want it to be. Mark that, drill it, and then weld this from the back by just drilling a couple pilot holes and plug welding it. Then this will be behind the sheet metal of the door, so I don't have to worry about rough edges or whatnot. And this whole plate will help reinforce that door. In fact, now that I think about it, I'm going to move these down so I have as much plate on either side. And I think that should be strong enough, because this is a pretty thick, this is 16? No, it's got to be even more. This is 16, 14, somewhere in there. It's pretty darn thick. Yeah, and then that should be pretty simple. Once I have those 2 nuts in place and welded, then it's literally lift the thing up, put it on there, put 2 through bolts through. I already checked. I don't know if it showed on the camera, but then the 1/2 inch, there is a size on the 4-way that fits it, so they'll be easy to take out if I need to with the tool that's already in the car. So this should be pretty quick and easy. Hopefully, after the last 2, I'm a little nervous, but hopefully. think we're done. My only concern is going to be this latch, but this clears. Yep. Okay, let's hop in. Step bumpers are useful. I don't have one. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, that sticks out more than I thought. Okay. I love this little thing, but I think it has outlived its usefulness. I might be able, actually now that I look at it, I might be able to pop the pin out and flip this around and have it, because if you look at how it folds towards the door. If I could get it to fold this way, it should clear it. Because, But yeah, I think, because the thing is, if I drill this out and try to flip this and it doesn't work, I have to replace it with the strap style anyway, so I'm out nothing. So I think we're going to do that. But this I like. I'm really happy with that. Actually, you know what? Let me just do this for the moment. Yeah, see? There's a little bit of space under here, which is good because if I want to load like a sheet of plywood or something in, or a couple 2x4s, I don't have to move this. And I still have the distance all the way to the back. This window is still usable. Nice and simple, like it's even to the door here. If it wasn't for this at all, I would have actually wanted to shift it this way a bit. And if it wasn't for this, I probably would have shifted it up. But I think that's a good compromise that takes up very little actual space. And given the problem before where I wanted to recess it and that wasn't an option, I will take this as a compromise. So let's see if we can flip this around and then go forward from there. All right, well, that didn't work. If I'd paid a little more attention, that side's fatter than that side. So you can't flip it around because while this would be able to kind of work, this wouldn't. So for the moment, I'm just going to leave that disconnected. I'm going to put a pin in the side I drilled, but leave it disconnected. And then in the long run, I'm going to, I think I have the two little brackets that take the strap. I think I have that whole setup because I grabbed it for a set of doors, off a set of doors at the junkyard. Because if I put a bed in, these things would stick into the bed. So for now, I'm just going to have this there but disconnected. And long term, I'm going to dig that out of storage and install that, and that'll take care of that problem. Because all I care about is the limiting. In fact, yeah. Anyway, you get the idea. All right. So long term, this needs the inner panel redone or replaced to have the holes. I think I'm probably just going to take this one, figure out where the holes are, or maybe just cut a section out of the middle or something. But anyway, have that fit there so that if the tire comes off, it's reasonably normal. The strap obviously is not going to go back on. There's not, yeah, I could like do that, but I don't see really the point because you can just at that point grab the tire. I will also, I have more of this vinyl, so I think I'm going to make a tire cover out of that just so it'll match the interior. I'm just going to leave this one on here for now so that the tire is covered. But yeah, now I have a spare. And in this little bin, I think I mentioned this before, I have a bottle jack, I have an air compressor, a little dinky one, I have a plug kit, like tire plug kit. I've got a 4-way and obviously the fire extinguisher. So with this, I now have the ability to deal with any flat that I get. So there you go. So I managed to, after some trials and tribulations, I managed to put a compact spare in my Chevy G20, and I feel a lot more confident going long distances in it without having to worry about getting a blowout. So I think that's going to do me for now. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.